Seth from Scarlet Moon Creations, and I am back with a new video. This is my April Elemental reading and May preview. And as you know, I go over the four cards I pulled at the beginning of the year for each element for the month of April, and just talk about how my month went and how that corresponded with the cards I pulled well before then. Um, so April was a lot. April was preparation for May. One particular day in May, but not a bad month in general. Just a very focused one without trying, I guess. It's funny, but let's start with the cards. So my air card for the element of air from the Thoth Tarot is, or was, the Lovers. And the Lovers, in this case, I felt like I was just it was a whole balancing act. Air represents all things mental, intellect, communication, and stuff like that. And this being a major arcana card, it was like a big deal. And I admit to having some up and downs mentally during the month of April because it was a lot. The big deal for me, what was coming up, was the Beltane Festival at Breed's Closet. And what you guys don't know is that this was only the third festival I've ever done since I started Scarlet Moon Creations. And I say that it's kind of important because the first two times I tried were miserable and horrible. And that was like very early on in the creation and the start of this business. So yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, and then there was a lot of stuff out of my control. For one, the weather. The first time it was bakingly hot, and the second time it rained the whole time. The locations and transportation. I'm a New Yorker, New York City. I don't own a car. I didn't then. So getting to these festivals was a lot. And then the first festival was one that I had a major hand in planning. So I had like no sleep before then. So I was worried. There were some other things that I was very concerned about, like, could I do this? Would they allow me to do this? Because I had to put in an application and then be approved. And I hadn't heard back, so I was worried about that. And I was just like, well, I was like very low on supplies. But I was determined, like that was a major goal this year, to like do it. I could have flaked. A friend of mine who's done it before, we agreed to like do a double space, and that was last year though, and we hadn't talked about it. And then like in February, she was talking about how she put in her application. I was like, I guess I should put in mine. um, but like there was no like, we're going to do this until like April, when we started really talking about, the logistics. And yeah, like I said, I had no supplies, but things wound up working out. But I just was going back and forth about whether or not I could do this. And that was like the overarching thing, because everything else in my life was kind of dependent on whether I would get myself together for this Beltane festival or not. Get the supplies, get the money for the supplies, make, what should I make? What should I not make? Should I make too much? Should I make less? It was just a lot of back and forth, and then I did like nothing else really. I worked. There was a lot of communication happening in April. One of the other uh, things was starting to work more. I was just like very open to the energy of people needing me to do more jobs because I needed the money. So yeah, that was that, and it was just kind of balancing. There was a lot of times when I was just like, maybe I should not do this, for a new reason, and then like a couple of days later I'd go back like, oh, I should definitely do this, I can do this. And so back and forth, the flip sides of things, trusting in myself and working together with others. It happened. Okay, so my fire card from the Deviant Moon Tarot was Temperance. And you can already see how that worked. So the fire element to me is creativity, creation, actions, passions, your will, those kind of things. And this is another major card. Like I said, with the lovers, again, the main focus for me was getting ready for this Beltane festival. And honestly, the fires of creativity were so huge, so huge. I just kind of felt like I had this endless cup to pour from, of creativity, of passion. And I was like, you know what, even if I don't do great at this festival, I'm making stuff. I am, you know, I'm just going to do it. Uh, Other than that, um, there was a lot of family things, uh, and journaling going on. I don't know. I did not get, you know, very much else, but very much else done. But I just felt, very calm, serene, with regards to creation. It was just a very creative month. I finally designed some things that I had been planning on for a while, and it's not done. I've come up with an even ideas for a better version, but wow, wow. Um, and yeah, I just kind of was like, I do feel like this will work out well. And I was backed up by great support. Like my mom was just like, when she found out, oh yeah, you can do this, blah, blah, blah. And my friend Janet definitely was my cheerleader the whole time. Like, you'll sell out. And it was just so great. I totally love them. So, my water card is from the Llewellyn deck, but for some reason, somehow, I've misplaced that card. I've been searching for it for a couple of days. I know it's around here somewhere, but this happens when I tidy up. I put things away in places that I don't remember. So my water card from the Llewellyn deck was, if you can see it, the Five of Pentacles. So the element of water for me represents the emotions, also the unknown, the deep dark depths of the ocean, um, feelings, and kind of the ebb and flow of stuff. And I got the Five of Pentacles, and um, it's showing these two, this woman and child walking past a church while out in the cold. They're not paying attention to um, is around them, what can be used as support, or pentacles can also be coins, so as something they can, you know, as resources. Um, just so, like I said, mentally, I was doing this balancing act, and kind of spiritually, to an extent, I was just very calm. Emotionally, it was all over the place. It was also, that's where the work had to be put in. Just, I didn't know where I was gonna get what. Um, I hadn't paid my taxes yet, so I didn't know how that was gonna work, and I was like, or I haven't filed my taxes yet, I should say, and I didn't know how I was going to pay to have that done, and I was like, but I can't focus on that. I need to focus on this. Um, for me, at that month, it was kind of like my emotions were tied to my resources, to money, and it was a struggle. Um, Not the worst struggle, but it was a struggle to believe in myself, to believe that I could do this. Also, a lot of other things happened, so it's not just the Beltane Festival here. My brother got married, and that I was trying to figure out some strong emotion about it. Um, I don't want to go into too much detail. It's his business. Or, yeah, it's his business. It's his life. I love him. Um, and, yeah, the day, figuring out what day this was going to happen was a lot. Um, and he didn't get married in April. It wound up happening in May, but that's what I mean. Um, it, it was a struggle. Uh, and also, I'll add that I was trying very hard to be emotionally responsible, um, and not let the negative emotions that I have attached to making a living, and having money to do things, having resources in general, to kind of ruin my month. I didn't want that to happen. Um, it didn't ruin my month, but it was still, it was just struggle, 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 struggle. Um, so yeah, last card from the element, representing the element of Earth. This is from the Fairies Oracle by Brian Froud. It is the Rar, and I think I mentioned in my March video that this always reminds me of the Golden Snitch from Harry Potter. And I mean, look at it. It's not golden, but doesn't it remind you of that? Anyway, um, so Earth is all about resources, money, growth, all of those wonderful little things. Um, and this is where everything else was like tied in for me. Um, the thing is, I went into the month with kind of like this lack of resources, but I figured it out. I or I got the resources I needed, kind of thanks to the temperance, um, uh, believing in myself, willing my way to get the resources I needed for the month, for the Beltane Festival, and just also being myself. I worked the Black Web Fest again, which in my head is like a volunteering job. Um, and a friend of mine who I knew from high school, she runs it, and I am a PA, and a PA. Anyway, I'm kind of like in charge of half the event when I get there, and it's great. It's exhausting, but I enjoy it every single time. And my friend was just like, here's a little something. And it turned out to be not so little. And I was just like, yes, yes. That helped. Someone hired me for house sitting, and I was just like, yes. A friend of mine asked me to babysit her daughter a lot in April, and I was like, yes, these are just like random extra jobs that I don't normally have that were super helpful in bringing in those extra resources. And then like I forced myself to sit down and plan out what products I was bringing, how much they would cost, because I'd had to change the pricing a little bit from the Etsy shop, and it just kind of all managed to work out. But it was a lot. Like I said, emotionally, it was the Five of Pentacles. Like I didn't know how or where or when or if I could, and it just kind of all amassed together to work out. Um, and as far as growing things, I learned a lot from the Beltane Festival, which I'll talk about in the next Elemental video, because that happened on May 4th. So that's for the next video. But, you know, um, I just, I did it. And I'm quite proud of myself. So, yeah, those are my elemental cards for the month of April and how things turned out. Now I'm going to give you a preview of the cards for May. So, as always, I go to my trusty year ahead elemental spread, and I just dropped a bunch of stuff. But yeah, there it is in my divination journal. And my cards for May in the element of air with the Toe Tarot, the Queen of Wands, very fiery card. And for the element of fire in the Deviant Moon Tarot, it's the Eight of Cups. Not my favorite card as much as I love her dress. For the element of water with the Llewellyn Tarot, I've got the Four of Swords. Again, not a favorite card. Totally the opposite. And lastly, for the element of earth with the Fairies Oracle, I've got Exorcist. So, looks like May's gonna be a lot emotionally as well. Wow, that's not fair. But yeah, I am looking forward to that video, and I will see you guys then. Bye.